All right, so today we're diving into something that honestly just sounds fun on the surface, but when you really dig in, it can be a huge springboard for
Right.
you guys listening. We're talking about organizing, specifically nightclub events.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Often we kind of dismiss the things that we enjoy as just like hobbies or just for fun
Yeah.
without really thinking about, well, hey, maybe there's some real potential here, right?
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting about what we're going to look at today and the source material, these excerpts from my story, and I am sticking to it, what's so cool about it is how, this person starts out just kind of casually organizing parties and how that unexpectedly blossoms into something much bigger and honestly way more lucrative.
Yeah. And speaking of those early days, so the author talks about throwing parties, like back in college.
Mm-hmm.
And their motivation wasn't like, oh, I'm going to build this empire.
Yep.
It was literally just like, quote, to make more friends and also have fun at the same time. And I think that's a good reminder for everyone listening that sometimes those most significant journeys start with something that's just pure enjoyment, a genuine interest, in connecting with people and creating a good time.
Totally. I mean, think about it. Even those early experiences, whether they were super casual or, I don't know, a little bit more organized, you're building skills there, right?
Yeah.
Like you're learning about what actually makes an event enjoyable. How do you get people excited? How do you coordinate with others? I mean, all of those little things, you're creating a buzz and, that initial enthusiasm, that's often the most powerful driver for developing those skills. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about yourself, I'm sure you've thrown some gatherings,
Right.
whether it's just a casual hangout or whatever, but that's already a starting point.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
Now, the author finds themselves in the corporate world.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Working for some pretty big names. And let's just say it wasn't a match made in heaven. They describe really disliking it, like extremely disliking their job to the point that they just walked out one day.
Whoa.
And here's a detail that I thought was so funny, but also kind of telling. They got a standing ovation when they quit,
Oh, wow. Really?
which I think really tells you something about that environment.
Yeah. I mean, it speaks volumes, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, but it's also, I think, a good point to kind of reflect on, like that level of dissatisfaction. It can be a real turning point
Oh, yeah.
when the discomfort of staying in a situation outweighs the fear of trying something new. That's when those bold moves happen, right?
Yeah.
And, the standing ovation, while hilarious, it highlights, I think, a bigger point. Sometimes the conventional path, the one everyone says you should be on, it's just not the right one.
Yeah.
And recognizing that takes courage.
Absolutely.
But it's also a good reminder to our listeners that, hey, if you're feeling that disconnect, there might be something else out there waiting for you.
Yeah, and they definitely found something else.
Mm.
So they take this leap of faith, they start their own event planning company, and, they're nervous.
Of course.
They talk about being nervous, which is totally understandable,
Yeah.
right? Venturing out on your own.
Right.
But also this overwhelming feeling of relief, like a huge weight off their shoulders. And then, get this, really quickly, like super quickly, they start making good money.
Wow.
But more importantly, they absolutely loved what they were doing. They were having a blast.
That's amazing.
They even say, and I quote, "It actually turned out that this was the best thing I could ever do."
Wow.
I mean, that's a powerful testament, I think, to just following your passion, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it speaks to this idea that when your work aligns with what genuinely excites you, it doesn't feel like work,
Right.
right? That enthusiasm, it's contagious. And it often, leads to success. And so for all of you listening out there, if you've got that spark for, creating fun experiences for people, turning that into something more, it could be incredibly rewarding, both personally and financially.
Yeah. And it wasn't just like, okay, now I'm throwing these parties, I'm making money, I'm having a good time. They talk about how this success in event organizing unlocks some amazing perks.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking time freedom, the chance to travel. And this is where it gets, I think, really interesting for all of you listening, meeting fascinating and influential people, like globally. They even mentioned connecting with the founders of PayPal and Hotmail.
Serious.
I mean, some serious heavy hitters in the tech world.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that brings up a great point. When you're the one who's bringing people together, especially for enjoyable experiences like a party, you naturally become this central hub,
Right.
right? You're the connector. And nightclub events, those tend to attract a diverse and often quite influential crowd.
Yeah.
So just by consistently delivering those like memorable nights, you're building a reputation and gaining access to circles you might not otherwise encounter. It's like you're not just organizing parties, you're building connections that could open all sorts of doors down the line.
Yeah. And these weren't small gatherings. We're talking about events with over 5,000 attendees.
Whoa.
This passion that started in college grew into like a serious operation. In their words, they became, quote, one of the biggest, or should I say most unique, event organizers in the Bay Area.
Wow.
Quite a jump from the corporate cubicle, right?
Yeah. And that's something for everyone listening to really consider.
Yeah.
What might start with smaller events with dedication and the right approach could scale up significantly. Those fundamental skills that you'd learn, like, organizing even a small nightclub event, like finding the venue, figuring out the promotion, making sure everything runs smoothly. I mean, those are all things that scale as you grow.
Right. And it's important to remember, because the author emphasizes this, they didn't just sit back and let it all happen.
Right.
They put in the work.
Yeah.
So, they went to networking events, they went to marketing seminars, they even came up with their own referral system.
Wow.
And to show you how dedicated they were, they mentioned reading Think and Grow Rich over 7 times.
No way.
And taking a ton of notes.
Wow.
I mean, that's commitment to learning and improving.
That's impressive. And I think it's a good reminder that while the fun aspect of event organizing, that's definitely a huge draw of sustainable success, building something real, it comes from treating it like a profession, and one that requires continuous learning and refinement. Like the fact that they actively sought out knowledge, in business and marketing, it shows that the enjoyable parts were supported by, real work ethic. So for you guys listening, it means you can definitely start with your passion. But that commitment to learning the practical aspects of event planning, I mean, that's going to be key for long-term success.
Absolutely. And this brings us to, I think, the core message, particularly for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, this sounds interesting. The author clearly had an incredible time in the party and event planning industry. Talk about the pleasure and joy it brought. And they even directly call out the listeners saying, quote, maybe you, the one that is reading this right now.
Wow.
It's a very direct and inspiring message.
Yeah.
Hey, this could be you too.
Yeah. I mean, it really taps into a desire I think we all have to find work that is both enjoyable and fulfilling. And their experience, it's a great example of how pursuing something you love, even if it seems purely social, can lead to a deeply satisfying career. For everyone listening, I think this raises a great question. What aspects of bringing people together do you genuinely enjoy, and how could you potentially turn that into something more within, the exciting nightclub scene?
And I think for anyone listening right now who's maybe thinking about getting into this, especially with nightclubs, this story really paints a picture, not just of oh, this is fun, but this is a real chance to find something you love doing and have an amazing time while you're at it.
Totally. And the nightclub scene, it's dynamic. There's always demand for something new, something fresh. For someone who's new to this, like a lot of our listeners, it can be a really energetic and honestly relatively accessible entry point.
Yeah.
You can start building your skills, making those connections.
Absolutely. And think about this. You're organizing these events. You're bringing people together. You're creating these vibrant hubs of social activity. That inherently positions you as someone influential within your circles. You become the connector, the mover and shaker. People start to see you as oh, they know how to create a great night out.
Right. You become the go-to person for a good time. And I think that's a crucial point. In any field, building a strong network, I mean, that's invaluable.
Oh, yeah.
But, event organizing, especially in an environment like nightclubs, it provides this natural, organic way to expand your connections.
Absolutely.
Every event you organize is an opportunity to meet new people, build those relationships, increase your social capital, and those connections, you never know where they might lead. It could be opportunities within the event planning world. It could be totally outside of it.
Right. And while the author's story focuses on their personal journey, you start to see how success in this area could really lead to multiple streams of income. So, think about it. From ticket sales, bar revenue at your own events, to maybe you start getting hired by venues to manage their events, or you're organizing events for other people, or even leveraging your growing network for completely different business ventures.
Right.
the possibilities start to multiply as you get established.
Absolutely. Once you've proven yourself as someone who can put together a successful event, and specifically a nightclub event, those skills and that reputation, those are valuable assets. You could specialize in different types of events. Maybe you offer consulting services to clubs, or maybe you even start mentoring others who are looking to break into the industry.
Yeah.
So that initial success, it can really be the foundation for a much broader career.
Mm-hmm. And they're so enthusiastic
Yeah?
about this potential, that they're even offering a free 15-minute call for brainstorming,
Really?
like directly to the listeners.
Wow.
It's a direct invitation to explore this further and see if it's a good fit.
That's incredible. It shows real generosity, I think, and a willingness to help others who are, maybe thinking about this path. So if this conversation has resonated with you at all, take advantage of that offer. It could be a really valuable first step.
Absolutely. So to kind of bring it all together, this deep dive into, my story, and I am sticking to it, it highlights how a passion for organizing events, even if it starts with just like casual get-togethers,
Yeah.
can evolve into a fulfilling and financially rewarding career. It's a journey that offers, not just the excitement of creating these memorable experiences, but also the freedom, those valuable connections, and I think the real joy of doing something that you genuinely love.
Yeah.
And for everyone listening, especially those of you who are brand new to all of this, the author's story is a powerful reminder that this journey, from just having an interest to becoming a connector, a creator, someone who brings people together, that could be you.
Yeah. And as you go about your day-to-day, just consider the potential, the untapped potential within your own circles, right?
Yeah.
Think about what kinds of nights, vibrant, unforgettable nights you could create, and what doors might open simply by taking the initiative to bring people together and craft those experiences. Like, what kind of energy could you unleash, and what new horizons might that reveal?
Absolutely.
It's pretty exciting to think about.
Yeah, definitely something to think about. All right, that's it for today's deep dive.
Well,
See you next time.
see you later.